YouTube. The Jasper County courthouses in both Joplin and Carthage are under construction. The biggest transformation will happen in downtown Joplin. I'm BOBBIE POTTORFF. Thanks for joining us on Newsmakers. Joining me today is Court Administrator ERIK THEIS. Thanks for joining us, ERIK. I really appreciate it. I was recently in the downtown area and saw all of the construction, and I mean, wow, it's a big job.
There's a lot going on,
Yeah.
definitely. A lot of infrastructure and a lot of improvements to downtown, for sure.
So when did the county decide it was time for a new courthouse?
This has been a conversation for at least the last 20 years. The courts building that we currently use was built and opened in 1974. It was a two-story structure. The ground floor was a parking garage. And then over the years, it's been repurposed and rebuilt just to accommodate the growth that we've had in Jasper County as far as cases are concerned, and county offices going in there and that type of thing. And it's just over the years, it's become dilapidated and unsafe. And thankfully, we were able to give the information out to the voters so they can make an informed decision as far as extending a sales tax that was already in place, and I think that we clearly articulated the needs that we had, and the voters graciously voted to extend the tax, and therefore we were able to start this project.
And it started with the construction in Carthage, right?
It did.
They started that process
It did. The
year or so
physical
ago.
construction started in Carthage, but before I got involved in these types of projects, I think the public doesn't know there's a lot that goes into a building project well before you start seeing the cranes and things of that
Right,
nature.
like the legwork, the buying, the designs,
Absolutely.
the bids. Tell us about that.
Sure. So it started 2 years ago, actually, and we met with the architects, and we start off by, it's just really like a 10,000 foot view.
Right.
And we kind of figure out what our needs are and kind of organize the building. And then after we do that, then we start looking at specifics as to how the rooms will look and that type of thing. And then getting more into the weeds as far as, functionality, where we're going to put security cameras and those types of things. And so there's a lot of work that goes into preparing a building for construction, the construction phase.
And you said it was going to be more open and basically to help people on maybe what you said, the worst day.
Sure. So, we acknowledge that people that come to the courthouse are probably not having the best of days. Either they're coming in to pay their taxes, or they may be involved in a lawsuit or a divorce situation, and so there's a lot of anxiety. Most people that come into the courthouse have a lot of that anxiety going on. So we purposefully designed the building to have a more open space, but at the same time still have a judicial presence. So there's a lot of natural light, the colors are real neutral and real positive, and because we understand that the people that are coming in there are experiencing some type of stress or distress.
So there's even psychology behind all of that.
There absolutely is, and again, the architects do a lot of research as it relates to that, and we are fortunate enough to have a great architect team and Trainer HL and Crossland Construction for that matter. But there's a lot that goes into these kinds of buildings, and we're very intentional in what the final product is concerned. And so there's a lot of natural space or light and space in there, but also we want to make sure that it's a serious place, right? There's a lot of serious business that goes on in the courts, and so there's also a judicial presence. So it has a twofold purpose there.
And you were talking about there's underground parking, and that's going to be for the judges, and it's going to be real secure.
Sure. So that was one of the main concerns of our courts building, is security and safety of all that go into the building or have business with the court. So The underground portion of the building will be, as you said, it'll be secure parking for judges and the prosecutors, and then also the sheriff's office will be down there as well. And so when inmates are transported over, instead of being sashayed out in the open like we do now, they'll go down into the underground area, and then there's going to be a sally port and holding cells down there. And then when their cases are called upon, they'll go up secure elevators in between the courtrooms, and then they'll go back, and then when they're done with their hearing, then they'll go back down into the holding areas. So there's no commingling, which was a big issue at the current building, where inmates are having to be walked through open hallways and past the victims and that type of thing. And so we wanted to address that, and this new building will address that and take care of that problem.
That's pretty smart.
Sure.
And in the basement area, are there, or I guess anywhere in the courthouse, is there going to be like a storm shelter area or secure?
Well, there'll be a storm shelter area. Now, we would need to discuss that operationally, how we'll deal with that. We haven't gotten there yet, but certainly that'll be something that will have to be taken into consideration if there should be, a tornado or some type of natural calamity. And so we just haven't talked about that operationally.
Okay. And now between 6th and 7th Street, Pearl Avenue is now gone, correct? That's all going to be part of the complex?
Right. So, and that's again a part of the early part of the process, is that we had to go in front of the city of Joplin and request that we vacate Pearl Street between 6th and 7th. And that happened. And the county bought both sides. There were some properties on the other side of Pearl Street to the west, law offices and houses and et cetera. And so that was a part of that process as well. And so we got that vacated. The entrance into the current or the new building will be from 6th Street. Okay. So where Pearl Street is now at 6th will be actually the entrance into the complex.
Okay. And that changes, like the configuration, the new courthouse is going to butt up against 7th Street, correct?
Right. So the courthouse, or the courts building will, actually, it's an L-shaped building, and I think you all have some
we have a site plan.
And site plan to see it. But basically, it'll go across what is now Pearl Street at 7th, and then come up to the north.
And on the rendering, the drawing here, there's trees, and this is all going to be parking, and there will be parking on the outside as well.
Yeah, parking will be mostly to the north. So once we're in the building, once it's constructed, the current courts building will be raised. And then that will be part of the parking. So north of the building will be all the parking for the facility, and then obviously the facility will be on 7th Street.
And right now, parking in that vicinity is just kind of a nightmare.
There's some growing pains that we're having to experience, and some challenges.
It happens.
And we appreciate the public being as considerate as possible and working through it. But it is, especially on larger court dockets, we are having some issues with parking. Now, once we get Carthage renovation completed, then we can move some of our operations, or basically half of our operations, back over to Carthage. And that's one thing that, there was a lot of things that came at once at us. One is that, the Carthage courthouse had to be closed, so all the courts had to be brought over to a building that was already too small for before. And so not only that, but then we had COVID on top of that. And so it's been a real challenge. 2020 was a real challenge, but we're on the end of the Carthage project, and so once that's done, that should alleviate some of the parking issues, because we'll be able to move some of our operations back over to the courthouse in Carthage.
And you said that the prisoners, they're going to be transported now, or I guess once the new building in a secure location. Are they still going to have the video conferencing abilities, like with the jail?
Yeah.
To where arraignments or first appearances don't have to be? Absolutely.
We are still using video technologies, especially, as you mentioned, the first arraignments and first appearances, because that can be done by video. Because a lot of the time those defendants and inmates don't have an attorney yet, and so they're just having to be told what they're being charged with and so forth. And so that can be done without having to transport, and that saves a lot of money for the county. Definitely. Not to mention it's a security issue.
Security. Yeah. Correct.
Sure.
Well, we recently spoke to the project superintendent of Crossland Construction, and he gives us an update on where things stand right now with the construction.
I am ERIK. KOONS. I am a project superintendent with Crossland Construction at the Jasper County Courthouse project. So whenever we started the project, we had some existing asphalt at the courthouse, and we also had Pearl Street was running through the project. So we stripped all the asphalt off and we started our earthwork preparations. So when we get the project, we have all the existing conditions as they were using the courthouse. So now whenever we took that over, we had to strip some asphalt off, sidewalks, curb and gutter, in order for us to start coming back up with the proposed grades. So we've excavated our hole for our basement. This has about a 3/4 size basement in relation to the whole building, and we're down in the bottom now. We're coming up with our subgrade, and we've started some foundations, footings, and we will start walls for the basement to get ourselves back up to grade to get out of the basement and start our first floor. We've had, on the first of the year, we hit some patches with extreme cold that everybody else was experiencing as well. So we had kind of a slowdown at the beginning and the start, but now we're getting in some good weeks. This week is a great week with the weather, so we're starting with our foundations for the most part for our concrete foundations, and project is really progressing well. Right now we're projected schedule-wise for a fall of 2022 completion.
So current phase we're in, we've excavated for our basement. And we're coming back now. We're at the bottom of the basement. We're working our way with our exterior foundations for basement, structural basement concrete walls. They'll come up and we'll retain earth to keep us up, to get us up to our first floor elevation.
Awesome. And in the site right now, what can you tell us about the construction and the process?
So the process we're in now, we finished most of our mass grading for our earthwork. We're moving into some geothermal wells that are subgrade below our parking lots. Those parking lots are 2 grade. Once the geothermal well process is completed, we'll come back behind. We'll put an aggregate-based rock on the top, and I'll move into our curb and gutter and asphalt phase.
And that was ERIK KOONS with Crossland Construction. He was talking about the geothermal wells. What's that all about?
So geothermal is a technology that's been around for a while, but basically what they do is they drill numerous wells on the site. I believe we're close to 90 wells for this project. And what it does is that it circulates water. So under the ground, the temperature is pretty consistent temperature. And so what it does is that it has a system where it pumps water down into those wells and then back out at a consistent temperature, whether that's, usually it's about 70, 72 degrees. And so it's a very efficient way of heating and cooling your building, and more cost effective.
So not natural gas or electric, it's...
Right.
Okay. Exactly.
So we did that in the Carthage Courthouse several years ago, and we want to do it in this project. So we went ahead and did the geothermal instead of just the traditional HVAC system, because in the long run, the maintenance and the efficiency will be well spent as far as the tax dollars are concerned.
Yeah, a cost savings.
Absolutely.
Is it expensive on the uptake?
There's a little bit more upfront cost to it because of the drilling of the wells, but the return on the investment is well worth it in the long run.
And do you know, so when they're digging down, obviously Joplin's all undermined.
Sure.
Is that a consideration that they have to take into effect?
Yeah, so what they do testing of the entire site for mines and that type of thing. They do that anyway.
Like they did out at St. John's with the big
parking
garage. They have to
absolutely anywhere around here. They're going to, and actually any project, they're going to test the soils and see what they're dealing with. Once they do that, then the actual wells are not very large. They're probably, I don't know, six inches in diameter. They're not huge, just enough to get the piping in there to circulate the water. So it's not really intrusive, but it does, they do have to drill, and they have to drill through the rock and the shale and the limestone.
So it takes a while.
So it took a while. Yeah, I think they said there was about 45 days to do all those wells, but there are nearly 90 of them. So.
And this whole project, it won't be done until next year, correct?
Right. It's projected to be done at the end of next year.
And that obviously depends on weather and other...
Sure, there's always variables and environmental factors. I mean, there's going to be some rain delays and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're going to see a new facility at the end of 2022.
Wow, and it sounds like it's a long ways away, but it'll
be here before you know it.
Yeah, we went through the year last year with COVID and the pandemic. Did that slow down any of the process with getting materials or product or?
Actually, it didn't. Not that of course,
Right.
I'm not the expert
Sure,
in that,
sure.
but as far as the schedules that Crossland Construction has presented to us, it has not affected any
That's
of that.
great.
So that's been good news.
Finally, something
Sure.
that wasn't affected by the pandemic.
Absolutely.
But the weather gave you a hit in
There
February.
was some, yeah. There was, of course, the real hard freeze and all that. That slowed us down. But there's ways that they can catch up.
Oh, sure.
And so, it gives and takes as the project goes along. But at the end of the day, we just want a good project, and we want a project that's going to last for 75 years. And Crossland Construction's doing a great job.
That's awesome. And the equipment we were talking about, there's equipment sitting at Memorial Hall. I was wondering about if that had any effect, and you said it wasn't about that, but it's part of the development in that area.
There's a lot of development downtown. That's a different project, actually. I mean, a lot of people think it's the same, and it's really not. That's the Cornell complex. It's an arts and entertainment center that's being constructed at the same time.
Wow.
Crossland is doing that as well, but that's a separate project. But as far as the community is concerned, it's going to be a huge investment for downtown because of the civic presence of our courts building. We also have it intentionally there with the parking to help with parking for the Cornell complex. And so it's just going to be a nice place for people to go downtown and be a part of the community. So
And some of the pictures of the new courthouse, it looks like it's an art building because it's so wide open and
it's modern.
Right.
It's certainly modern, and we did that intentionally. Of course, there's some colonnades, so there's still a judicial presence there. But again, we wanted to not only have a building that's safe to use, but we also wanted it to be a great civic presence for downtown Joplin. Because any community, that everything revolves around the courthouse.
Right.
I mean, it's built around the courthouse. And so having that civic presence is going to be a great addition to the downtown.
And do you know the numbers, like in the thousands of people who are at the courthouse on any given day? I mean,
Right. I've actually studied that. We have around 9,000 people that come to the courts building every month.
Oh.
So a lot of traffic goes through there. In Jasper County, we have nearly 17,000 cases that we process each and every year. And a lot of people think, well, that's all criminal cases, which is not true.
Yeah.
Actually, our criminal cases, our civil cases, we have more of those than we do criminal cases. And so the public uses the court a lot more than what you think. Plus, we have a place where they can pay taxes and do their assessments.
and that's all still going to be there.
And that's all going to still be in the same building. So it's not only going to be just for court, but then you're going to have your county offices as well, where you can vote and do other things that civically in nature.
Okay. And tell us what's happening right now at the Carthage Courthouse with that construction.
So we're finishing up with that. That's been kind of a two-phase project. So the first, when the voters in 2016 put in the quarter sales tax, we did some exterior renovations and did the geothermal heating and air. In this phase, we added a new courtroom and did some revitalization of the interior because it is the jewel of Jasper County. I mean, it's a historic courthouse. It's beautiful. We want to preserve that, and we want to continue to function in that, more importantly. And so we wanted to make sure that it was also safe. So we did some security upgrades. Again, added another courtroom so we can have more court over there. And so it's getting ready to finish up. We're hopeful by July of this year that we'll open that back up and we'll start having court over there.
Okay. And I know that during the pandemic, a lot of the judicial process went online by way of phone conferences. The federal courts held court in Carthage, and they had to move to Barton County. But shortly thereafter, the pandemic hit, and so everybody was doing it by phone conference. Do you see the federal court hearings coming back to Carthage?
That's the plan.
Okay.
The last I heard that was the plan coming back, is that they will continue to do hearings once we open back up. Now again, with COVID, that's going to be, ebb and flow here,
Right.
as far as that goes. I mean, we have to make sure that the people that come to the courts are safe and we are able to socially distance and those types of things. So there may be still some video conferencing and that type of thing that still occurs. But once we get past the pandemic and all the restrictions, which hopefully is sooner than later,
Right.
Then we will be able to operate as normal in the courthouse in Carthage.
And I think it will be a welcome thing for the people who work there.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's just, we wanted, the whole idea behind this whole project, Bobbie, is that we wanted flexibility. We're unique, Jasper County, in that we have two courts facilities. One is the courthouse and one's the courts building. But we wanted to be able to be flexible and have spaces that we can use as we continue to grow. Because the last thing that we want to do is go back to the voters and say, look, we didn't plan ahead. And I feel like the projects that we have in place now, we're able to grow as our county continues to grow, and so we should be able to use these facilities for a very, very long time. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people are.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Eric.
You
We
bet.
really appreciate it. We talked all about the Jasper County Courts building, and can people go someplace to find out more information or details? Can they just contact you?
Sure. We have a website. It's jaspercountycourts.org. They can go online, and there's a lot of services available online. Information, whether that is to know how to go about doing court business, whether it's filing a case or just
good.
general
Yeah.
information, how to pay your fine, or how do you there's information online that's available for them at their fingertips. It's really easy, and it's very intuitive, and you're able to gain any information and user-friendly, get anything that you need.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Eric. We appreciate all the information about the Jasper County Court's new big, beautiful building, courthouse. This is Newsmakers on KGCS TV from the Ruth Colpin Studios here at Missouri Southern State University. And I'm Bobbie POTTORFF. We'll see you again soon.